Let's play some hockey tonight.
Energetic, passionate, and savvy. Gooch Live. Brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Gooch.
Yes, it is. I've got a great show. Listen, a little bit of a change, of course. As you know, Gene Principe was supposed to be with me today. Montreal and the Oilers are playing tonight. So it's Edmonton against Montreal. They've flown from Toronto. They were supposed to fly back into Edmonton. That did not happen. They flew to Montreal to make up one of the games, of course, that they missed due to COVID restrictions. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I need a replacement, not a replacement, a guy that's always on the show with us. He's one of my most favorite people. Dennis Maruk has joined us. We're talking the Washington Capitals and the Massmutual Division, the Eastern Division. All these crazy names they got going on right now. I wonder if they'll get rid of them when it all comes back. So we'll talk to him about that division. Obviously, he's a Washington Capital fan. You know, we all know he played. There he is. Look at that, Fu Manchu. And, of course, he's very good friends with Alex Ovechkin. So we'll talk to him about where Washington is right now with the Islanders right behind him with the Penguins. And then, of course, we'll talk to him about Alex Ovechkin and the chance of him catching Marcel Dionne. Brett Hall, I don't think he's going to catch Jagr this year. I'm making a bet with him. He's not going to catch Gretzky this year. I'm just saying. Washington has 50 points. They're 9-1 and 0 in the last 10. Backstrom leads the team in points with 36, 13 goals, 23 assists. Ovechkin, 18 goals for 30 points. John Carlson, 7 goals, 21 assists for 28 points. They're poised to take this division, but we'll ask Dennis how he feels about that against the Islanders and the Penguins. Hey, so what? I got him in the green room. And then right after he tells us all about the Washington Capitals and then tells us about Ovechkin, my good friend Joe Pascucci from Winnipeg. He's actually here in Toronto. He's joining us, talk a little bit quickly about where the Jets are. And then Dennis, myself, and Joe will go up against in this or that. We'll talk about who would we like out of the Washington Capitals of the history or Winnipeg Jets. It'll be a fun game with Dennis Maruk and Joe Pascucci. All right, here he is. Dennis Maruk.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, thanks for joining us last minute. I know that we had Gene Principe on today, and as you probably know, Montreal and Oilers had some games canceled. They're doing a makeup game today, so that's great. And so I wanted to bring you on because obviously history is about to be made again. Alex Ovechkin has changed the world when it comes to goal scoring. He's after that elusive 894, which is Wayne Gretzky's. He's 170 goals back. I'm asking an expert who has scored a lot of goals. There's no chance he's catching him this year, is there?
No, I don't think so. No, not this year. Maybe
okay. So
he's on the right track. He's on the right track.
No question. We'll talk about Alex in a second. He has 724 goals. Gretzky at 894, but there's a couple that he can climb to, and we'll talk about that. Let's talk about the Washington Capitals. I know you're a big fan. Obviously, you're a legend there, but I know you're still a fan. You when it's not COVID, you're either going down to Minnesota or you're going to Washington to watch games. Talk to us about where you see the Washington Capitals right now. Obviously, they're sitting with 50 points. The Islanders are 48. The Penguins are 48. And what's important about that is both the Islanders and the Penguins have played 2 more games than the Capitals. But the Capitals look good right now. What are your thoughts on that division?
Well, that's I look back to many years ago when we were in the Patrick division with the Islanders, the Flyers, the Rangers, Jersey, and the Caps. So you look at what they're doing today with the Islanders, the Penguins, and the Caps. They're same 3 teams in the division, and they're all playing. Some of them got to a slow start, but they're all have caught up. They're all playing better. They're pretty healthy teams, all 3 of them. So who's going to win? It's going to go right down to the wire. There's no doubt about it because they play against each other so many times that they're not crossfiring against the other division. But I like the way Washington has really come on and solidified. I think they were worried about their goaltending situation when Samsonov got hurt, and now he's back playing. The other fellow that went in net for them has really played well for them. So that's been a plus for their organization to have those two good goalies. And, of course, you got Backstrom playing the way he normally does. And, you got Oshie, you got Carlson, you got Ovechkin, who's gonna keep on scoring, which is phenomenal. So, and I like the way Pittsburgh's got guys that are your third and fourth line guys, second line guys are producing and scoring, and look at Crosby. Crosby's just one of those players that can play forever, and then the Islanders are a team that are coached well, and they work real hard, and they've got strong goaltending too.
So listen, I want to go through some of the stats right now. Of course, New York Islanders with 48 points, 6-4 in the last 10, whereas, Washington's 9-1, and they are peaking, of course, with probably around 26 games left in the regular season. Obviously, with Backstrom playing, as you say, 36 points, leading the way. Matt Barzal is leading the team at 28. This guy's a highlight reel. He can score goals like no other. And then you got Pittsburgh, of course, with 48 games, 48 points, 7-2-1 in their last 10. They've come on, and Sidney Crosby, of course, is leading that team with 39 points. But what's really important about that situation is Malcolm is on long-term injury reserve. So I'm worried about that because you know how important he is down the stretch, and is he coming back for the playoffs? Obviously we've seen players go down and not being able to come back into it. I think Malcolm is really important for that Pittsburgh Penguin team to continue on. But what you made very evident is you talked about the third and fourth lines. All three of those teams, the difference between any of the other teams down below, and even Boston's struggling right now, are their third and fourth lines. And Wilson, for example, though he's a rough and tough and rugged type of player, he moves throughout the lineup. Obviously, he's playing up top right now. He's got a little bit of an edge. That's the difference between these teams. Those type of players that are playing for Washington, Pittsburgh, Gensel, they are just stepping up at a time where they're needed.
Yeah, definitely. And that's for the team to win a lot of games and to continue on, you got to have that, they talk about the top six forwards, but you got to have the bottom six that are participating, contributing in some way, whether they're checking the top line on the other team or getting the odd goals. You look at the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know we're not talking about them right now, but you look at Jason Spezza and what he's done at his age, and they didn't expect, he's only playing 8-9 minutes a game, but I don't think they expected him to have that many goals at this point. But you got to have guys like that. They're going to put goals in at times and make plays, and he's on the power play, second power play. So he's got to be doing something. So it's just the teams that have, as you can say, all around scoring or all around chemistry are the teams that are going to go far in the playoffs.
Yep. Hey, listen, Joey Lyons comes and says, one of the all-time greatest Capitals, and we're so blessed to have you on the show today, Dennis, to talk about the Washington Capitals. And, of course, we'll get into Ovechkin in a second. So what can change? Like, these teams are so tight. Right. You mentioned goaltending, a significant injury to a player. We're going to see what that means with the Pittsburgh Penguins, with Malkin out of the lineup. These teams are deep. They're interchangeable parts, but when you lose guys like obviously Malkin, obviously if Backstrom went down or Ovechkin, those are pretty big losses. Do you think that the difference between these are their best players on each of those teams are playing at the level they should be, and then everybody else is contributing? What does that mean for a team if they do lose a leader like Malkin?
Well, you want your leaders producing every game if you can, and of course they're not going to play 100% every game, but they're going to have some off games in that. When you start losing your key point players like your Crosby, Ovechkin, Jamalkins, then you got to look at they're not replaceable. There's no doubt about it. They're one of a kind. And you have to look at your depth and hopefully that a player that gets a chance to play more will upgrade his skills. And because of the fact he's getting played more, a guy on the fourth line that's going to be moved up a line and getting more ice time, you're going to see that happening. And then sometimes you're not going to see it happen. You're going to see where the players just don't fit. They don't, because of the extra ice time, they're just not able to do it. So I think the teams that, as I said earlier, that the teams that are healthy are going to go a long way. But when you can have guys that I said, like Spezza and a few other guys that can produce goals to take some pressure off the top scorers, they're going to do well. But it is definitely, Cooch, that if you lose at Ovechkin and you lose at Crosby, Malkin, it's a big loss for them. But I don't think he's the player Crosby is. And even though he is a great player, but still, it's going to hurt the team down the road if he doesn't come back. But you never know.
Hey, Dennis, I have to ask you about the Flyers. Obviously, we all know the situation with the Flyers. Goaltending has always been an issue. I must admit, Carter Hart, I thought he was going to be the answer right now. He's young. He's only 22. I wanted to ask you this question. They're falling apart. I just noticed Shane Gossebert is put on waivers. So the Flyers are making some noise right at this particular moment. But the noise that I heard yesterday with Vanier saying, hey, listen, we're going to sit Carter Hart. He's talked to the goalie coach. He said to the goalie coach, can you get him to stop a puck in public? Did he need to do that on a young goaltender? You know how fragile it is. You know it more than anybody with the Flyers situation with goaltending. The kid's already got that pressure and that label stuck on his back. And now Alain thinks it's important that he embarrasses the kid in front of everybody. He didn't need to do that, in my opinion. He could have kept that quiet. Yeah, we're having some issues. We're going to give him some time off. He needs to rethink it. But don't throw it out there that he's going to the goalie coach and he's going to try and get him to stop the puck. How about working on your defensive end of the game?
Is that what they're doing to Anderson in Toronto?
I don't know. No, Anderson's got a. Thank you. I didn't want to go there.
We won't get into.
Yeah, we will.
Get into that.
Listen, Joe Pascucci's going to hang on a second. Joe Pascucci's going to come up in a few minutes. We'll go on as Elizabeth. Okay. Then we'll go on that, and then we'll get into the.
Okay. Well,
yeah. All right. Good.
Flyers have always had problems, Gooch, and goaltending, and you're right in what you're saying. Keep things within inside in office or indoors, whatever. Don't let it get public, because then it puts not only pressure, it comes across negative, and if they're struggling, they don't need any more negativity. So you look at they got some good players. They were hot. They're in a dry spell right now. They'll get back, and look at last night. They were down 3-0, and they came back and won in overtime. So I mean, that's a positive right there. Yeah, they were playing against Buffalo, but Buffalo's, they got nothing to lose. They've lost so many that they had a chance to win last night, and they didn't. But with Philly, they'll come around. There's no doubt. I think that a Hart player, get some time to rest, some practice, and maybe figure out. They did the same thing with Price, and all the same. It happens. These guys you think of yourself sitting in there with those shots coming at you at 100 miles an hour, and you're supposed to stop everyone. Well, sometimes you can't see a shot coming, or it goes in off a leg, or goes off someone's back, or whatever. So I think they'll come around, and you're all right that they should keep. Coach should have kept it indoors and work with the player and make him feel positive reinforcements, and that's all.
Could you imagine if they would have lost that game, let's say 4-0 last night, the mess that would have been there? I still think there's going to be a lot of question marks placed on the management and coaching staff right at this particular moment, because, if they played the Rangers every game, they'd be in real big trouble. So I think, and I think his philosophy was, okay, we're going up against Boston. Elliott's had their number. You know what? It's a great time to sit the kid. He could have done it without all this fanfare and make it. I think all he's trying to do is send a message to his fans. I'm the coach. I'm showing you that I'm trying to do something. And it could have turned ugly for him, because they lost that game 4-0. It's great that they stormed back, and Giroux was absolutely spectacular at the later stages in that game. But I'll tell you what, that could have backfired tremendously on him and made him look really bad. He's still, in my eyes, the coaching staff looks bad for doing it and making it public. But certainly they got lucky by winning. So my question.
Sorry, I would have played hard against Buffalo.
I would have absolutely built his confidence up again. Yeah. So I want to ask you, was it the Flyers' luck to win yesterday, or was it the fact that it's just bad luck with the Sabres and they just can't do anything right?
I don't know. I wasn't on the ice. I watched the game a little bit, but I think it's just they got that monkey on their back, man. They just they got to find a way. I've had people that I deal with on Facebook and all that, and they're asking me to go coach and help them out and stuff like that. Of course I can't travel there, but they've got some good hockey players. You've got to find a way to find ways to get these players to go over and above what they're doing. Are they too complacent? Have they accepted the fact that they can't win? And then they're not given that second and third efforts in the game. And not only the goalies, you can't blame the goalies. I mean, yeah, they're not going to stop everything, but it's the guys out in front, and you got to work together. Whoever's leading that show over there, I don't know, as players, but they should take it upon themselves, not the coach, not the GM. It's the players. It's their job. It's their livelihood. And how would you like to wake up every morning saying how negative our team is, and I'm one of the players? I'm one of the faults. So, I mean, they have to really get together and really figure out a way, whether they win 1-0, at least they're in the game and all that. But, right now it's a troubling situation. Yeah.
Well, they had the game under control. I watched it 3-0. I thought, gosh, and when the first goal went in, everybody said it. Almost, here it goes. And it ended up being like that. Obviously in Buffalo, our good friend of mine, I played with him in junior. Joel know him very well too. Ralph Kruger. Obviously, they can't fire the whole team. They brought they brought Hall in there to be the answer to help, with Jake Eichel, and it's just falling apart. The whole thing is a train wreck. We could spend hours on it. Listen, I want to go to Ovechkin just before we bring up Joe. He's 7 back from Marcel Dionne. I don't think there's not a chance that Ovechkin's not going to catch Dionne. He's 17 back from Brett Hull, 59 from Jagr. I don't think he's catching that. And certainly I said it. I'd make a bet with you right now that he's not going to catch Gretzky. Do you think he's going to catch Brett Hull with 17?
That's going to be close. I mean, they got 20-something games left? Yeah,
20-ish.
28 games left. It's good. He's been hot, though. He's been hot. He's got 1 or 2 goals a game, and he misses a game, then he gets another 2 goals. So I don't think he's going to catch Brett Hull. I think it'd be close. But definitely next year, when hopefully the schedule's set and 80 games and 82 games, whatever, and he stays healthy, he's going to catch a couple of them next year. And I believe that you said 170. No, he's not going to get 170. But the way the game is today and the way these players have opportunities to score far more than we did years ago, he's a guy that can catch Gretzky.
Yeah. They playoff goals, our producer just asked the question, do playoff goals count? They do not. It's only the regular season.
Right.
And I'm wondering, it's a question, why don't they count those as goals? Like you've scored, those goals are probably arguably more important than the regular season. They should be. I'd like to find out, we'll ask Joe Pascucci because he's a hockey historian and works at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Hey, listen, Dennis, stick around with us, please. Joe Pascucci is a former sportscaster out of Winnipeg, good friend of mine. He was going to come on the show today with his good friend Gene Principe. Unfortunately, Gene had to move, as you know. So I said, hey, Joe, join us anyways. We'll get a chance to talk some hockey, talk some Jets, but also we got you on. We'll talk to you a little bit about what's a memorable game with the Caps and the Jets. So here's Joe Pascucci. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very, very well. I'm in elite company. Dennis Maruk.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Dennis. Awesome to meet you.
Thank you. My pleasure too.
Hey, listen, great to have you both on. We'll go quickly to you, Joe, just to ask you, do you think Alex Ovechkin will catch Gretzky this year?
Oh, he's not going to catch Gretzky this year.
No, do you think he'll catch?
That was a softball question, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. How about Brett Hull? He's 17 back from Brett Hull. He's on roughly, I think he's got in 32 games, he's got 18 goals. Pretty tough challenge, but certainly he'll pass him next year.
I'm going to say no. He won't catch Brett Hull this year, but he'll catch him next year. You know, and if he plays, 3 more years, 3 more seasons, maybe he will catch Gretzky. But we'll see.
Dennis has had the opportunity, obviously, to be down there, and he knows Alex really well. He's keeping himself in incredible shape. And, you know, I was watching the game the other night. He doesn't back down. Like, he's running guys over just like, you know, he's a power forward, for God's sakes. So if I could, Joe, you remember, of course, Dennis Maruk probably coming and playing in Winnipeg. You remember those days?
Oh, yes. And when Washington would usually beat up on the Jets in Washington, and the Jets would be life and death to beat them in Winnipeg. And I remember there was a big brawl in Washington where I think Randy Carlyle got into it with Hatcher in Washington. There was a big fight there.
It was before me, I think. After me, yeah. Yeah, it was after me, yeah.
So Dennis, could you just remind Joe about how badly you guys beat up on Winnipeg? That'd be kind of fun. Is there a special game that you recall and say, wow, that was incredible?
No, I mean, it was great to go to Winnipeg because the ice was so good there. You know, it was fast ice and it was tough to beat them there because they're so used to that fast ice, and we didn't have that. But I don't remember too many games, but I do remember coming off that bus and walking backwards into the building because you couldn't breathe if you walked facing that wind. And that wasn't a far walk from the bus to going into the arena. It was so cold there. But other than that, Winnipeg fans were great. Even though the visiting teams coming in, they were great to us. And I have a lot of respect for that organization. And it's nice to see, as you know, I've done things with Dale Howard-Chuck, and it's sad for his loss. But I believe that Winnipeg is right. They're knocking on the door. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, tell us about your thoughts right now on the Winnipeg Jets, Joe.
Right now, the Winnipeg Jets are as strong as they've ever been, I think, under the Paul Maurice regime. And one of the reasons for that is they have 4 legitimate forward lines. You know, and last night he kind of interchanged lines 1 and 2 by putting Scheifele between Ehlers and Connor, and Dubois between Stastny and Wheeler. And Scheifele scored 2 goals. Dubois had a goal. Ehlers had 3 assists. Connor. And what really seemed to work, Maurice said afterwards it was because of matchups. That's why he made the switch. But Scheifele just seems to have a little more speed to play with Ehlers and Connor, while Dubois, he's got speed as well, but he kind of paces himself. And he seemed to really work well with Stastny and Wheeler last night. That combination worked good. Of course, their third line, Kopp, Lowry, and Appleton, you know, they can score, they can check, they can basically do it all. They kill penalties. And the fourth line right now with the two, you know, with the veteran line of Nate Thompson, Trevor Lewis, and Matthew Perreault. I mean, Lewis and Thompson are your defensive players. Perreault can play defense. He can score goals. He's kind of a poacher. A number of his goals recently have been, you know, the other team makes a mistake, he pounces right on it and scores. So they're up front. They're very strong defensively. Of course, they may not have the big names, but the biggest surprise this season for the Jets defensively has been Logan Stanley. He was the player that they moved up to draft in the same year that they drafted Lion. A lot of criticism, from fans about the pick. And, you know, Stanley has been in a few years in development, got into the lineup this year only because of injuries, both times early in the season and then later on in the season. And right now, there is no way they could take this kid out of their lineup. He is unbelievable. He doesn't have a flashy game, but players can't get around him because of his size and his reach. His shot is always on net. Let's say 90 to 95% is always on net. He scored on Saturday night against the Flames his first NHL goal, and he picked the top corner. So this kid, there is no way that they can take him out of the lineup when Nathan Beaulieu comes back from his injury, because he's playing too well. And now the question in Winnipeg is, well, who do you protect on defense? You have to protect him, because Seattle Kraken would take this big, strong defenseman, young, with a good cap number. Obviously, he's not going to be drawing in a lot of money yet, but he's been outstanding. He has truly been outstanding. And when the forwards come back and help out the defense, there's nothing wrong with the Jets defense.
Hey guys, I want to ask you this question, both of you. Obviously, Dennis, what do you see in for trade at this trade deadline in Washington? Do you see them making a move at all?
I'd be surprised. Really. I like them. I like to see them bring up that McMichael kid from Hershey that played in London Knights with Team Canada and all that. I think he's really doing well down there. I think that's what they'll do, if anything, bring up a player or two from the minors that have done well. Is there going to be other trades around the league? Yeah, sure there is. But you look at Winnipeg, talking about what Joe was saying, look at their goaltender. I mean, nothing was said about they've got, and as we said earlier, Gooch, about the third and fourth line guys. Yeah, Winnipeg's got they got off to a little bit of a slow start. But look at them now. They got 3-4 lines that are producing, that can play with any line that's in the NHL. And I know, Gooch, you like to hear that because that's your team. But, I know that Winnipeg has a W and Washington has a W, but I think I like the Capitals better. But it really is.
And they both
have
blue, red.
I wanted to ask Joel one thing regarding I was really shocked when, even though Patch Lanton that trade, when they traded him, you got a guy that's just been in the league a few years and good goal scorer and all that. Was he the problem? Could he have been the problem for Winnipeg Jets to go further?
In some respects, I would somewhat agree with you that he was the problem. He certainly constantly, verbally and loudly, campaigned to play with Mark Scheifele. And he didn't want to play with Brian Little. He complained about who his centerman was. He felt that he was a top line forward, that he should play with the best center on the team. The only problem was, and Maurice did mention it after the trade, that when Laine and Scheifele did play together, they didn't play that well. The line didn't. They really didn't connect that well. And Laine's game, the last couple of seasons, I mean, yes, he's got this tremendous shot, but he was like a pitcher. He was having trouble finding the strike zone, and he'd lost a mile or two off his fastball. But he's a tremendous scorer. But is he a great all-around player? Not like Dubois. I think Dubois has more. He may not get the points. He may not be as flashy.
Yeah.
But he's less of a headache, right? He's low maintenance, I would say. And Laine was high maintenance.
Yeah. Hey, Dennis, I know that we talked a little bit. Sorry, you're going in and out. It's a little bit difficult, but we'll keep you here because we got a little bit of fun coming up. I wanted to say, Joe, do you see any trades going on? It's a little interference from Dennis's mic here. Just hang on. Hey, Joe, do you see any trades in Winnipeg right now coming up?
I mean, I guess they could always use another veteran defenseman, but and I guess that would be in place of Tucker Pullman, because like I said before, Logan Stanley's not coming out of the lineup the way that he's playing right now. Ekholm from Nashville is the name, sort of most been bandied about in Winnipeg as to who they'd like to get. If they're going to do that trade, they got to do it quickly, because of course the quarantine rules in Canada, right now it's 2 weeks. They are talking about, reducing it down to a week. But Dennis pointed out, they've got goaltending. Their defense right now, as it stands, is good enough as long as the forwards come back. If the forwards continue to play the way they are, to play the north-south game, That's a comment that Maurice made after their first win in this recent 3-game series with Calgary, was they were playing more of a north-south game. When the Jets go east-west, then they're in trouble because they get a little too cute and try to be too fancy, and they end up turning the puck. Like, I don't have the analytics on this, but there was a time where I would swear the Jets led the league in turnovers 6 feet from the offensive and defensive blue line, whether they're inside the blue line or outside the blue line. Somehow they would turn the puck over because they would try to make a cute little 3-foot pass instead of just dumping it in and going after it, which they have been doing in about the last 4 or 5 games. They're dumping it in. It's old style hockey, but it's effective for a team that turns the puck over a lot. Their forward group definitely turns the puck over way too much.
That move, I don't know if you got to see the game yesterday, Dennis, the move by Ehlers, where he kicked it to his skate and went around the defenseman. That was classic. Dennis, did you see the game yesterday at all?
You have him muted, Kerry.
I know we have unmuted him. I think there's something. Dennis muted himself. I guess he's struggling a little bit with his Wi-Fi, unfortunately. Great to have him on the show. Dennis is one of our favorites. He's just such a nice guy. He's been so good to us with his time and that. I just hope, can we get Dennis? You're muted. Can you get back on?
You may have signed up and try and sign in again, I think.
Yeah, we lost him there for a second. Listen, really quickly, just before we get into, we got this little thing that we do. We have a lot of fun with. I hope that Dennis can get back in on it. Talk to us a little bit about, are you surprised at the goaltending situation? I know you're here in Toronto now. Obviously, it's a big issue. Everybody's talking about it. We don't know what's going on with Anderson. He's hurt. How long is he hurt? Jack Campbell has always had trouble staying in and out of the lineup. Hutchinson did not play poorly last night. Overtime goal lost quickly. You know, I just felt, you know, he's been kind of he's been put in situations where he's had to show his stuff, and he's done that. He has not been by anyways a disappointment. But to the Toronto Maple Leafs at this moment, under the circumstances, did they need to make a move for a goaltender?
That depends on how long Anderson's going to be out. Right. I mean, if Anderson is healthy, will come back healthy, then I think you have to ride out Anderson for the rest of the season. Like, who could they get?
Well, there's talk of Quick out of LA. There's Val has mentioned that to us.
Yeah.
You know, would be a good move. Proven winner, Stanley Cup champion. Right now, don't forget with Anderson, we don't know where he's at right at this particular moment. But when you think about it, Anderson hasn't done very well in the playoffs anyway. So do you start maybe looking at it? You're going to lose him probably at the end of the year.
You're talking like a fan. You're panicking.
I'm a Winnipeg Jets. I'm a Winnipeg Jets fan. I'm only talking.
You're talking like a Leaf fan, and you're panicking.
That's it. I got to put.
I mean, the Toronto fans, you know, and media. They pick their spots. So somebody's Dennis is back. Somebody's having a bad game or two. It's like his career is, you know, down. They got to get rid of him. They got to trade him. Of course, we all remember the Larry Murphy trade. He couldn't play defense for Toronto. All he goes and does is go. They trade him to Detroit, and he wins Stanley Cups. He's one of their best players, right? True. I mean, I've not given up on Anderson just yet, you know, and I think he'll come back strong. You know, sometimes maybe they don't have a goaltender that can win them a playoff series. And sometimes in the playoffs, obviously you're not always going to be your best. You need a goaltender to steal you a game or two and steal you a series. And that's one thing about Connor Hellebuyck. He's yet to win the Jets a playoff series. You know, they've won 3 with him, but you know they've lost the series that they've lost. He wasn't the difference that he could have been, right? So. And I that's no disrespect to Connor Hellebuyck. He just hasn't yet been put into a position where he has to bail out the team and win a playoff series, win a playoff round for them.
Hey, listen, all the way from Hong Kong, Jordan, who's one of our producers, his father's popped up and he said, hockey royalty. That's not you and me, Joe. That's directed at Dennis Maruk, of course. where he was an absolute stud with the London Knights. I know your mic's a little off, so we're going to try this really quickly, Dennis, and then we'll let you go. We want to do a quick thing with Val. Val's going to come up for a sec. All right, Joe, if you could just hang on for a sec. Val, let's give this a shot. Dennis, we'll mute you and bring you up. Listen to the little game that we're going to have here. All right, Val.
Nice to see everyone again.
I'm going to mute you, Dennis, and I'll bring you up and down. Here we go.
Okay, so since we have a Winnipeg, stop touching the buttons, Gooch. Since we have a Winnipeg Jets and a Washington Capital luncheon today, we're going to do a this or that. You got two choices of a defenseman in Jets history or Capitals history, a goaltender in the history of the team, and a forward. And you can only choose one or the other. You don't have to choose the Jet. You don't have to choose the Capital. So here we go. Who are we going to start off with?
Joe. Joe's always good for this.
Okay, so we're going to hit defenseman. We're going to go Phil Housley or Rod Langway.
Rod Langway.
Okay.
Holy, wow. Okay, Dennis Maruk.
Dennis, Phil Housley or Rod Langway? I think his Wi-Fi is in there. Oh, we got you there?
Oh, definitely Rod Langway.
I'm sorry?
Rod Langway.
Rod Langway, okay. All right. I'm going, you guys, I don't like you guys. We got it, Rod Langway. Okay, Gooch is picking Phil Housley. I just love the way he skated. He's the real deal for me. Langway, we knew what he was. You know, that rough, tough, rugged defenseman, always there. Phil Housley added color to the game.
I thought we were trying to win. Not disrespectful to Phil.
That's secondary. That's why you are who you are. I'm just having fun with it all.
Okay, so let's go to the forwards in Winnipeg and Washington history currently and in past. We have Teemu Selanne or Alexander Ovechkin.
Oh, jeez.
Teemu Selanne.
Okay, why, Joe?
Because he was exciting. He could score goals in many ways. You know, just the speed of which he played, the whole ice, his vision, his dash, his flash. Teemu Selanne. So Alex has got his spot in the face-off circle. Selanne could score from other areas of the ice. Not that Alex can't. But.
Yeah. All right, good answer. Dennis?
Dennis, Teemu or Ovi?
We know that answer.
I think his Wi-Fi, unfortunately, is...
Gotta go with Ovi.
Okay, Ovi?
You have to.
I also say Mike Gardner.
Mike Gardner, yeah, we could throw him in.
Stop doing a 1A, 1B like Carey. You only get one choice, buddy.
All right, I've got mine. Mine's easy. I'm going to go with Ovi. I know you guys are going to say, what the heck are you talking about? The only reason why I'm taking Ovi is my wife loves Teemu Selanne. A good-looking dude, Hollywood movie star, and I know I have no chance up. She's not that fired up about Ovechkin, but she certainly loves Teemu Selanne. And I've never met Alex Ovechkin personally, so I can only go by Dennis, that he's a credible guy. But there is not a finer human being on the planet than Teemu Selanne. The nice man. And as you said, Joe, he can score for everywhere. But I got to go with Ovechkin because I can't deal with the competition with Teemu.
Yeah, and you know what? Either one's not a wrong choice to have on your team.
No, not at all. All right, last one. What do we got?
We got goaltenders. So we're going to go Godzilla, Olaf Kolzig, or Connor Hellebuck.
Ooh, Jesus.
Who do you want to go first?
Joe, go ahead.
Connor Hellebuck.
Really?
Oh
Connor Hellebuck. I like Olaf Kolzig, yeah, but I think Connor Hellebuck will prove to be a top-notch goaltender. As long as he stays in the paint. Once he gets outside the paint, goes around the net, then all bets are off. But if he stays in the paint, stays square, he is the best goaltender around.
Hand grenades. All right, Dennis.
The Brodeur syndrome that's been going on this past week.
Yeah, it's been terrible.
Dennis. You've got Godzilla or Hellebuck.
I'm gonna have to go with Connor. I like the way he plays. I like his outlook of the game, how he prepares, and all that. And Joe, yeah, you're right. he's in the top 3 or 4 goalies in the league. So I got to go with Connor.
Okay.
All right. Well, of course, it's called Gooch Live, so Gooch is going to change it up a little bit. I only take Olaf Kolzig because I got to see him play in Germany a couple of times. He's entertaining. Hellerbuck's just really good. Olaf, he just added a personality, and I don't think Hellerbuck's got a personality. I haven't seen it, Joe. I may be wrong. I just haven't seen it. And again, I know you're going to win, but I want some flash. I want a Dennis Maruk. I want that Fu Manchu look, even though Hellerbuck has a little bit of that. I just think we need some personality. Somebody tell him he's playing a game that he loves and he's getting paid for it.
Well, Connor Hellebuck has a personality. It's extremely confident, even when he gives up 5 goals and looks bad on 4 of them. Yeah. You'll always say he didn't have that bad a game. I thought I played well.
That's true.
And I think as a goaltender, you have to have that, right? You got to have that confidence.
No question. It's called arrogance. Hey, listen, Dennis, we're going to let you go. We got to work on your mic because hearing your voice, we just love it. So you and I and Val over the next couple of weeks are going to work on it because I want to get you on the show more and more because you're so knowledgeable at the game. But we will see you in a couple of weeks. All right, buddy?
Thanks, Dennis.
Dennis? Poor guy. I love him.
Yeah, unfortunately, his Wi-Fi was just starting to choppy there.
Yeah, well, he's in London. You know, there's issues with, and it's not London, Ontario.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
No, he's in London, Ontario. Hey, listen, Joe, just before we let you go, there was a great comment here I wanted to get up here. Bobby B, he's a longtime listener, a longtime involver. He's actually been on our Fan Fridays. He's very engaged, very blue and white. He doesn't have any red in him. It's all blue and white. Definitely goalie troubles in Toronto, but I think the D on the Marlies should be given more of an opportunity. We don't have a problem scoring. We have a problem keeping the puck out of our own net. I'm going to agree with Bobby a little bit that I think you said it too. I think the Jets could take a quality defensive defenseman right now, somebody with a big shot right-handed. But I think everybody can use that. When you have Hellerbuck and Brossoit in net, I think you've got an okay tandem. Whereas right now, the Toronto Maple Leafs do not go anywhere. Even if you add another quality defenseman, you're going nowhere in the playoffs against Edmonton, Winnipeg. If you don't, Dennis is coming up. It's windy weather.
You're showing a lot of respect for Edmonton.
Yeah,
I know. Like those great battles back in the day.
Smith, but I don't have that as much respect for the rest of their team besides the top.
No, but I don't. And I said it earlier. Somebody asked me. I like Edmonton chances against Toronto right now. Straight up, there's no question. I believe Edmonton would win that series. Would they win it against the Winnipeg Jets? I would say no. I think that's going to be a tougher battle for Edmonton. But with the inconsistency of the goaltending back at the back end in Toronto, I just think you just need 4 games of McDavid and Draisaitl being hot, and that's over. Bye.
Well, the Jets have done a pretty good job of shutting Connor, McDavid and Draisaitl down, though not in the last 2 games that they played them. But they were both low-scoring games. I think Toronto can match up well against Edmonton. I think Toronto was the better team last night. They didn't win, but they were the better team last night. So I'm not as down on Toronto as maybe you are. Yes, the goaltending is a concern. Michael Hutchison, we had him in Winnipeg, and he was hot and cold, right? They had him last year in Colorado. I think he won them a couple of games, didn't win them.
Yeah, he was good.
Series.
He was good. Yeah,
but he's had opportunities to take the ball and run with it, but has failed. Twice in Winnipeg. Paul Maurice wanted him to replace Pavlik. All right? And Paul Maurice wanted Hutchinson the one season to be the number 1 guy with Hellebuck as his backup, but Hutchinson didn't play that well, and and Hellebuck was. So Hellebuck all of a sudden, well, now you're the number 1 goalie. You're the guy.
I don't see how Paul Maurice wanted Hutchison to replace Pavlik, because Pavlik is second amongst Winnipeg goaltenders in history.
Yes, but Pavlik Pavlik wasn't playing well. He'd let in, a soft goal or two. The funny thing was when the year that the Jets made the playoffs for the first time, Hutchinson had replaced Pavlik as the number one goalie. And there was a game in St. Louis where he let in a couple of bad goals, and they put Pavlik in, and the Jets rallied and came back, and Pavlik was brilliant up until
remember that game,
the last minute and a half where there was a shot from the Jets bench.
Fell apart, yeah.
Beat him, right? So and Maurice you could tell afterwards, he was pretty upset. Next game, the Jets play Florida. Hutchinson's back in net and gets blown out again. So he has to go to go to Pavlik for the game against Tampa. And lo and behold, Pavlik is brilliant. He stands on his head, and then from that point on to the rest of the season, Pavlik was the goaltender. And in that final week of that regular season, I think he had something like 3 shutouts. I think the only game he lost was in a shootout.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that clinched for the Jets playoff spot. But Pavlik was somewhat inconsistent, and unfortunately, and he certainly lost the confidence of Maurice.
So, Joe, just before we let you go, I do want to go back to the goaltending situation in Toronto, because I know Winnipeg, we are both on the same page. We know that they're destined to go at least win the North and go deep into the playoffs. That's what I'm believing. I know that you're feeling the same, Joe. But I do want to touch upon, and I'm not a Leaf hater. I love the Leafs because my wife does, and I want the best for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I honestly do. I'd love them to win a Stanley Cup because I'm living here. Could you imagine the party? I don't want them to win it this year because the party's not going to be that great.
I think among the group, I'm the only one who's seen the Leafs win the Stanley Cup more than once.
No, I remember it. I saw it, but it was in black and white pictures.
I've seen the black and white, yeah. So
no, but I was living through it. You guys weren't
good.
It.
I remember 67. I was only 9, 6, 7, whatever. But let me ask you this question seriously before we let you go. You're here in Toronto. Everybody's under a microscope. The pressure that's put on any player that plays in here. And I know you said that you'd stick with Anderson, and we don't know the extent of Anderson's injury. He hasn't been on skates for a while, as we've been I think March 17th was the last time he's been on skates. Campbell has had a history of injury problems. So now you're going with a team that's full energy, Matthews and Marner, Joe Thornton. You can't criticize what he's brought to this team. The only guy that I think on the forward lines are obviously your friend Nylander. I know Val's not a big fan of him. I think JT hasn't been where he's at, but Spets has been absolutely crazy good. So I think the front is in good position. Defense is okay, but I think we're really concerned about where we are with the goaltending situation because it's really, really fragile right at this moment. And if you're going to take this team that's got all that front power, the defensively okay, better than it's been for a while, and you're going to have it, built on balsa wood, gaffer tape, and crazy glue, I think me as a Leaf fan, if I was a complete Leafs fan, like Bobby B is, I'd be concerned right now. Would you not, Joe?
Well, I guess it all depends on how serious Anderson's injury is. If it's a short-term thing, then I'm not as concerned. I think that he's a good enough goaltender to win the Leafs around in the playoffs. If it's long-term than that, then yes, they're in trouble. They better go get a goaltender because obviously Campbell's played great when he's been in there. But as you point out, he does have that history, and they definitely are going to be very protective of him and how many times he plays in the lineup, because obviously they're going to need goaltending when they get to the playoffs.
Yeah, and
Val, you're okay. Go, sorry, Val.
I was going to say the supposed rumor out there for Jonathan Quick coming to Toronto. I've been a Jonathan Quick fan. That would be a pretty good, intriguing trade if it's a true trade and Dubas is looking into it, because I think Quick will get you a little farther than Anderson would. And to touch on Anderson, his injury is a lingering groin injury that he had back when Mike Babcock was coaching the Leafs. So I think that's what he's battling through. But they both have the same history in terms of injuries. But I would, if it was between Anderson and Quick, I would choose Quick.
And how's Jonathan playing this year? How's Quick playing this year?
This year, they're both the same. We had this conversation on the weekend. Apples for apples, they're probably like a percentage point apart from their save percentage. Their goals against is probably like plus or minus 3 or 4. So you're not really getting the superstar. But I think Jonathan Quick has more history behind him in winning a couple of cups with the LA Kings. And Anderson, he'll show up once in a blue moon for a big game in the playoffs, but not that game that counts to actually close out a series for Toronto in the past couple of years. So.
All right, guys. I know we got to get going. Last point to you, Joe. You get the last word. First, before you do your last word, are you joining us tomorrow for a few minutes with Gino?
I will be glad to join you guys and Gene
Fantastic.
and talk old times.
Don't forget, Gene Principe is here tomorrow. We're going to be talking Oilers, and Jets. So it'll be a lot of fun. We'll reunite the team from CKND, Joe Pascucci and Gene Principe. All right, last word to you, Joe.
Well, we'll see you tomorrow. Don't worry, Leaf fans. It's not all that bad. And Jets, it's pretty good. It's pretty good right now.
Joe Pascucci, always a blast to have you here. We're living in the same city now. You actually showed up to my wedding, which was fantastic. Really appreciate that. And you called the 1982 Canadian Ball Hockey Championships in Winnipeg. It was an honor to be there with you. I was actually on the floor playing. You were up there eating hot dogs. You were up eating hot dogs with Tom DeRogimo. Okay, buddy. Thank you for being a part of it.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Oh, shit. I've got to stop touching the buttons. Hey, really sorry. I know this went a little bit longer. Apologize for Dennis Maruk. I love having Dennis Maruk on. He's so entertaining. So we're going to have a chat. There's nothing you could do. I cannot believe, and this will be for another show, I can't believe how the internet is affected. We had Dave Tiger Williams on. We couldn't do it because it was too cold. We can't get Dennis Maruk on because it's too windy. Yet Jordan is, in London too. So he must be on the windy side of London, and nobody knows wind like Kerry Goulet at Portage in Maine, downtown Winnipeg, one of the windiest, just like Chicago. Hey, listen, don't forget at 4 p.m. it's the Rosen Report. Please join Paul as he talks some great athletes throughout his show, the Rosen Report. He will be up with a great guest. I haven't heard who the guest is today, but I know it'll be a classic. And listen, tomorrow, Gene Principe will join Gooch for lunch. We're going to be talking all about the Oilers, as I mentioned, and he is a huge, deep down inside, I know he's still a Jets fan. We'll talk to him about that. And then Thursday, lunch with Gouche and Friends. We got Francois Landerville coming up, and we're going to be talking Habs, because what does that addition, Eric Stahl, mean to the Montreal Canadiens? We'll get it firsthand from him. All right, Val, can't thank you enough. We battled through it. We battled through Mike's, we battled through the wind, and now tonight we'll battle through the Oilers up against those Montreal Canadiens. Who are you taking?
Oh, wow. I mean, the one thing about this season overall amongst all the teams, no team has been has had any consistency when they face each other, whether it's the Leafs sweeping the Oilers, now the Oilers beating the Edmonton, whatever team. So I think this season is about inconsistency. I'm going to pick the Oilers just because they've been playing. Montreal's been off for a week. The last time they came off a long stretch of not playing, they lost a couple of games in a row. So I will take the Oilers off a big win last night. I'll go 4-2 Oilers.
And I'm going the exact opposite. I'm going 4-2 Montreal. I just think the Habs are going to be a team to reckon with as they go through the playoffs and hopefully make the playoffs, which I think they're almost a shoo-in with Calgary losing last night, Vancouver with the games they have in hand over the Vancouver Canucks. I think Montreal is in a position now they can start looking at third, because as Paul has mentioned too, you don't want to be ending up playing the Winnipeg Jets or the Edmonton Oilers right off the bat. So I think they'll match up really well. Montreal and Toronto, I think that's going to be a classic.
Well, if it's Montreal-Toronto, then it's Edmonton-Winnipeg. Old school rivalries, right?
Elon Musk will fix it all. You're right. We need to give him a shout. All right, buddy. Thank you for being a part of a great show today. Dennis Maruk, we will get you back. And, of course, Joe Principe, Joe Pascucci will be with us tomorrow. Team Principe. Do not miss it. It will be a show you want to hear about Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the rest. Gene is the voice of the Edmonton Oilers. All right, guys. Thank you to the Hockey News. Thank you to Sports Illustrated. And, of course, our good friends at Paramount Sports Management. See you tomorrow.
See you, everyone.
You've been listening to Gooch Live with your host, Kerry Goulet, better known as The Gooch, brought to you by the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated.